Welcome back to Mycorrhiza. Usually when we're given a choice, we would do things in an order, but this time around we're going to choose the right door. Lots of little hands coming out of there. Distorted Minds Comics presents to us, or to Scott, Trapped. So this is about the trapped building, the one in which traps people inside said building. So we've done the face. I shot awake, panting heavily, my clothes sticking to my skin due to all the sweat. My eyes darted around the room, but everything was quiet. I seemed to be safe. Yeah, the key word there is seemed. A nightmare. Seems like I just had a nightmare. There were people laughing, and distorted faces, and I couldn't remember, but it must have been terrifying. The pulsing pain in my head slowly subsided. I took deep breaths and kept mumbling to myself that it had all been a dream, nothing more. After calming down, I decided to take another look around the house. The fact that no one was here even though the lights were on was still nagging at the back of my mind. But what I saw when I opened the bedroom door was not what I had expected. Instead of the living room, I had entered the bedroom through, though. I found myself in the middle of a long hallway. A row of doors, interspersed with handrails, covered each wall. Maybe we entered the house, but the house is also the building which traps people in it. I could hear people chatting in the distance. Where was I? And how did I get here? This place looks like a hotel at first glance. A plate with a room number was hanging next to all the doors. Mine was 215. As I moved towards the end of the hallway, I took a more thorough look at my surroundings. The floor was lined with a red carpet featuring an elaborate design. The red and white walls complemented the elegant atmosphere. This atmosphere is nothing elegant at all. On the ceiling hung electrical lamps that were similar in design to candles. As I stepped out of the hallway, I was momentarily blinded by the bright ambience. A huge chandelier was hanging on the ceiling of the grand hall I had stepped into. I seemed to be on the upper floor of this two-floor structure. The ground floor, apparently a restaurant area, was lined with tables. It's almost like we're on a ship because of the water in the distance. Multiple people were dining and happily chatting with each other. A huge window across from me showed a big body of water. Was I in a hotel by the beach? The water looked oddly close. I needed answers. I needed comfort. I quickly located the stairs and hurried down towards the restaurant. Luckily, one of the waiters was just passing by as I reached the bottom. "Excuse me, could you tell me where I am?" He answered without hesitation. "You're in the restaurant area, sir. If you'd like to order something, you need to..." No, I mean this whole hotel. This time he did hesitate. "Well, you're on the Kijawati, whatever that says, cruise ship. If that's what you mean, Is everything in order? Cruise ship? How did I get on a cruise ship? I thought this was a ship. Had I been kidnapped? Would my kidnappers let me walk around freely? The waiter had a concerned look on his face. He glanced over at his colleague, who had gestured to him with a stern expression on her face. I could call someone over to help you, or you could find someone at the help desk just at the end of that hallway. He gestured back up the stairs and pointed at another hallway next to the one I had come out of. Thank you. I'll just ask for more information at the help desk. I don't know the name of this cruise ship by trying to pronounce it. I didn't want to hold him up any longer. The waiter's colleague had by now crossed her arms in front of her chest and was tapping her foot impatiently. The waiter hesitantly nodded and turned away from me. A cruise ship? I didn't remember ever booking a ticket for a cruise. But as I rummaged through my pockets, I did find a key card with the number 215 on it. Right, the help desk. I should be able to find out more there. I made my way back up the stairs. The room at the end of the second hallway looks like a lounge area. It was filled with comfortable sofas and armchairs. Multiple groups of people were chatting to each other. I could see children playing near what I assumed to be the help desk. May I help you? I quickly approached the man standing at the desk who perked up from the documents he was browsing. Hi, how can I help you? I'm a bit lost. Well, I don't really remember booking a cruise. Is there a way to get off early? He looked at me with a similarly puzzled expression as the waiter. Could you tell me your room number? Yes, it's 215, but I don't really remember booking it. I took out my keycard and showed it to him. The man opened a drawer and started expertly flipping through folders. Shortly after, he pulled out a document. Is this your name and signature? He turned it so that I could see it. To my surprise, the name and the signature written on it were indeed mine. But how? How could I forget signing up for a cruise? As for your second question, we're currently on the last day of our trip. The ship will arrive at the same name as the name of the cruise ship port tomorrow at noon. Are you here with anyone? He threw a skeptical look my way. I must have sounded like a weirdo. No, I'm alone. I'll just sort things out tomorrow then. The employee shrugged and put the folder back into the drawer. Don't hesitate to let me know if you need any more help. I turned around, wondering what my next course of action should be when... Oh, ow! Something had hit one of my legs hard. I stumbled, but managed to stop my fall by holding on to the help desk. Oh God! Are you okay? Lanny, you need to pay more attention. I looked up to see what had hit me. Initially, I had assumed I had walked into some piece of furniture, but that wasn't the case. A boy was sitting on the ground in front of me. Someone was standing over him, making sure that he was alright. As soon as she had confirmed that he wasn't hurt, she turned to me. I'm very sorry about that. Are you hurt anywhere? Lanny, make sure to apologize. Sorry, I wasn't looking. No, it's alright. I'm okay. I turned to a boy named Lanny. Are you okay? Yeah, it's nothing. His look was fixed to the ground. It seemed like he really did feel bad about bumping into me. The woman had, in the meanwhile, fixed her gaze onto my face. I would check where your key card is, Scott, just in case if this was not an elaborate trap to distract us and then something would take away our personal belongings while we are distracted in the meantime. Are you sure you're alright? You look rather pale. No, I'm fine. That didn't seem to convince her. My confusion and frustration about being on this boat had shown on my face. Would you like to sit down with us for a bit? I have some medicine against seasickness. It might help, don't worry. Seasickness is not it. I mean, that's the least of my issues. Now that she was mentioning it, I was feeling a bit woozy. I'd been too preoccupied with figuring out what was going on to notice. She led me to one of the sofas and motioned me to sit down. My name is Sabrina, by the way. This boy here is Lenny and the other girl over there is Amy. Okay. She motioned to a girl sitting at a table nearby who was brooding over a piece of paper. My name is Scott. So, are they your family? Sabrina stopped rummaging through her handbag and looked at me with an amused smile on her face. Kara? Oh no, they are my neighbour's kids. So Kara then. We're good friends and I paint with their children sometimes. I'm currently looking after them. While Sabrina was still looking for the medicine, Lanny approached his sister and peered over her shoulder. He then grimaced and walked over to our sofa and taken a seat next to Sabrina. Here you go. She handed me a pill from a small bottle out of the corner of my eye as I saw Lanny motion to Amy. I don't get how she can be so into drawing. It's boring. We all have different hobbies, Lanny. I'm sure you're into something in which Sabrina or Amy is not into. She's been at it for at least half an hour and it still looks terrible. Hey, beauty is upon the eye of the beholder or something like that. Hey, I heard that. Don't you dare mock my drawings. Amy shot an angry gaze at Lenny. Good art needs time. Maybe you should work on some art as well. Yeah, maybe it'd help with your hyperactivity. I'm not hyperactive, I'm just healthy, that's what Dad says. I guess so. If I had any ounce of knowledge about music, I could help you relive your energy that way at least. Though it's also been a while since my art. Since your art? Sabrina trailed off with a sad look on her face. Don't worry, it's okay. I'll be figuring things out on my own. Also, I've been asking Dad and Mom if they could buy me a... What? I've never even heard of that word before in my life. Melodica. I'm pretty sure that I'll get one soon. It sounds like a musical instrument, but I don't know. You two really seem to have a knack for art and music. Your parents must be proud of you. I don't... Hey. Your parents are proud of both of you. Not just one or the other. Well, good parents anyways. I don't know about Amy, but I'm pretty sure they're proud of me. Amy shot another angry glance at Lenny's way. Not surprising, but didn't retort. She seemed to be the mature one in their sibling relationship. Hey, do you have any more of those pills? I jumped slightly. A voice had called out from right behind me. As I turned around, I saw a grumpy-looking man. Sabrina grabbed her handbag once again. Another one, Frederick? It says on the package that one should be enough. Apparently not. I can't work while feeling like crap. Why did I agree to go on this trip? Sabrina gave him a skeptical look, but handed him a pill without saying anything. Frederick turned around on the spot and trotted off. Sabrina sighed. He seems like a regular. Sorry about that. He's usually more pleasant. The seasickness must be getting to him. That coupled with an upcoming deadline for an article. So he's a journalist? No, that's not what I meant. He's a biologist and he's been working hard on getting something published in that one magazine. What magazine? If you ask me, his obsession with getting more publications is a bit unhealthy. A fellow scientist? Now that I think about it, I hadn't written anything in a while myself. Way more pressing matters had taken up my time recently, such as, how did I get on this ship? The spores were still. I jolted up. Sabrina looked at me in surprise. Thank you for the medicine. I feel better now. I should get going though. I was too anxious to sit still, even though I knew that there was nothing I could do until the ship came into the port the next day. Alright, take care. Feel free to let me know if you need any more medicine. Thank you, mistress, and to children. I thanked her again, said goodbye to the siblings, and headed back towards the sleeping quarters. But I stopped just before the hallway that led to my room. My eyes wandered towards the big window. The sun had started to set, but I didn't feel tired at all. Likely because I had woken up just recently. And so I decided that the best way to dispel some of my anxiety was to take in some fresh air. Are you sure you could get out of the ship and onto the, oh gosh, what do we call it? The poop deck. A salty breeze hit my face. I could hear the soft splashing of waves against the hull of the ship. It certainly is nice, isn't it? Just a limited array of colours, black and white. This place was way emptier than I had expected. Less than a handful of couples and some families were standing near the edge of the railing. One of those couples had their dog with them. Every now and then, when it heard the call of a seagull, it jerked its head around. Were one of the pairs on this deck perhaps Amy's and Lanny's parents? Absent-mindedly, I approached the railing right by the door and looked over. I think the actual parents were away doing something else, but not on the ship. We were very high up. Looking down at the waves hitting the ship hull had an eerily hypnotic effect. Combined with the cool air and the sound of water, it calmed me down. It's you again. Hey. I jerked up. Someone was standing at the railing right next to me. Sorry, I didn't mean to surprise you. No worries, it's okay. It looked like she had been standing there for a while. Did I somehow overlook her? You looked a bit confused, so I wanted to ask if you were alright. Well, I guess I'm a bit lost. I had a feeling she'd be no more understanding than the employee, so I decided not to tell her too much. She was in the previous door as well. I'm a bit lost too, and with the same kind of lost feeling as well. It might sound weird, but I'm not sure how I ended up here. Wait, that sounded oddly familiar to my situation, but she seemed to misinterpret my surprised look. I know, it sounds odd. It's just like in dreams. Whenever you try to remember how you got to the place you were dreaming about, you can't. So I wasn't the only one. There was someone else here who was experiencing the same thing I was. Knowing that lifted my spirits. I wouldn't think that would personally lift my spirits. Personally, that would make me feel more concerned, because it's not just a one-time thing. Just as I was about to tell her my situation, she suddenly perked up. Sorry, I should go. I promised to meet someone. And with that, she hurried off before I could say anything. I was slightly frustrated by the fact that I hadn't been able to confide in her, but I could seek her out tomorrow, I guess. The sun had meanwhile almost set. A blood-red stripe was visible on the horizon. Is that sunset itself? I set off back towards my room. With nothing better to do, I got into bed and tried to sleep. The word tried. My night was restless. Half of the time I wasn't sure if I was awake or asleep. Weird sounds kept waking me up. Nothing horror related here. By the time the sun had risen, it felt like I'd barely slept at all. Today would be the day we'd arrived at a place called... I don't know how to pronounce it. From there I would be able to get back home one way or another. I rubbed my eyes as I opened the door that led out into the hallway. Yeah, you can say that again, but something was wrong. Yep, limited vision. The hallway looked different. Was it shorter? There definitely used to be more doors here. It was as if a new wall and door had appeared where the hallway originally continued to the restaurant area. I approached the new door and tried to turn the doorknob, but it was locked. Slowly panic set in. Was I trapped here? Did everyone already leave? There was no way they had left me behind, right? I quickly approached one of the doors in the hallway and knocked. Silence. I tried the next, and then the third, and then everyone else. All was silent, or every other door. My heart rate accelerated. I forced myself to calm down and think this through. There was no way they would leave a passenger behind. And even if they did, they would notice sooner or later that I was still in here. No. The most productive thing to do right now would be checking if the other rooms were open. I would suggest leaving your own door open, just in case. Maybe I could find a way to make people aware of the fact that I was still in here. I consider which door to try first. We're going to be selecting room 3 first. I entered the dimly lit room. It was desolate except for a few cans of food and a few bottles of water in one of the corners. There were also 2 rather young children, one boy and one girl in the middle of the room. Those 2 again. As I saw the girl kneeling over the boy's motionless body, my heart dropped. It was Amy and Lanny. She looked up at me with pleading eyes as I rushed to their side. Lanny was covered in sweat, indicating a heavy fever. His limbs were heavily bruised and he was heaving. I glanced over at Amy. Fortunately, she seemed to be alright. I'm Scott. We met yesterday. You're Amy, right? Yeah. Her voice was shaking. Something must have happened. Lanny is sick. Don't worry, Amy. We'll find a way to help him. She hesitantly nodded. That seemed to calm her down a bit. I unfortunately didn't have any medicine on me, so I didn't have any way to help them yet. You seem to have some food and water here. Do you think I could take some of it with me, just in case there are more people in this building that need it? I don't mind. Thank you. She didn't seem very talkative. I'm not surprised, actually, but that was to be expected considering how concerned about her brother she must be. I will let you know once I find something that could help you, okay? Okay. She turned back towards her brother. I walked by the canned food and considered taking some with me. I'm going to take half of it. I decided to take part of it with me. That way they would still have some left. I left the room and found myself back in the hallway. I would feel really greedy by taking all of it, but then I wouldn't have some kind of self-preservation if I didn't take any of it. Room 4. Room seemed to be empty except for a lonely light bulb hanging from the ceiling. It didn't seem to be working properly, as it barely gave off any light and flickered every now and then. It took my eyes a while to get adjusted to the darkness. And right as they did, I realised that the room wasn't actually as empty as I'd thought. Oh dear. A huge dog that I hadn't seen right away because of the poor lighting was just a few feet in front of me. And it was determined to rip me into pieces. I hastily stumbled backwards, almost tripping. This was it. I thought I was going to get mauled. But nothing happened. All I could hear was the rattling of a chain. I slowly opened my eyes and saw that the dog was fortunately chained to the wall par its red collar. It was vehemently struggling to get free. After confirming there was indeed no risk of it getting free, I took a closer look around the room. There were small glittering objects strewn across the ground next to the animal. Next to the dog was a body. A badly mutilated one. A foul feeling spread through my stomach. Did the dog do this? The corpse was lying too close to the dog to examine it. Instead, I cautiously inched closer to the object scattered on the ground next to him. I picked one up and examined it. It was a bullet. I had no use for a bullet yet, but if I did in the future, I'd know where to find one. I'll just take it with you, just in case somebody else with a gun is able to use a bullet. When I took another close look at the area behind the dog, I saw that there was an opening in the wall. It seemed to lead into another section of the ship. This was the first time since getting trapped here that I had seen a possible escape route. The only problem was the furious animal blocking it. I couldn't think of a way to get around the dog without getting mauled, and so I decided to retreat for now and look for a way to get past it without getting myself in danger. Let's go into room number 1, actually. The room was unfurnished and windowless. A sole light bulb in the middle of the ceiling illuminated it faintly. I could see about 15 people sitting on the dirty ground. Most of them seemed to be adults, but there were a couple of children cowering next to what I assumed to be their parents. One person from the group, an older man, raised his head as if waking from a dream. The door. It's open? More and more people lifted their heads and I could feel their stares piercing me. The man was the first to stand up and shuffle towards the door. I stepped aside, but as he tried to cross the threshold, he suddenly stopped. He was frozen in mid-air. His fingers tightened as if he was exerting great effort. Disappointed, he stepped back. It's no use. He sulked back to his spot and slumped to the floor. The other people in the room lowered their heads, their hopes dashed in an instant. I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was evident that they were in trouble, but also by the fact that we was the only one that could go in and out of the room. I quickly walked up to the older man. Hey, do you know what's going on here? No. We all woke up in this room and are unable to leave. And now it seems like you're stuck here with us as well. My heart stopped for a second, and panic slowly started to set in. Was I really trapped in here? I hastily walked to the door and stepped right through. The man stared at me with wide eyes. This means that you, instead of the girl, might be able to help us. What do you mean by the girl? Right after we uttered those words, some of the people in the room lifted their heads and looked at me. Some with a look of disbelief and some with hope in their eyes. So there was someone else on the ship who could enter and exit this room freely? What did she look like? He started to explain. I soon realized that this description fits someone I knew. Sabrina. Oh, that girl. Yeah, it sounded just like the girl I'd met on the deck yesterday, so she got into this mess as well? We asked her to help us, but she just laughed and left. That wasn't quite how I remembered her, but it wasn't like I'd known her for a long time exactly. Was her nice appearance just an act? I shifted my attention back to the man before me. There are more people trapped behind other doors. Please let me know if you have anything that you don't need or if you're in need of something. That way I can make sure that everyone gets out of here safely. Some people nodded in agreement while the majority stayed static. A woman stood up, got something from a shelf and approached me. We found some medicine in this room. We can't give away all of it, but maybe it will help someone. Oh, hello, Funite. I wonder what the middle words are. Fungicide or something like that. The label was barely illegible. I can make out the letters. I still gladly took the bottle and thanked her as she trotted back. Please, if you find any food, bring it to us. No. It hurts my heart to keep it to myself, but I had to see if someone else needed it more. Maybe I would be the one who would need it more. Alright, I should head out, but I'll let you know if I find anything. Thank you. I stepped back through the doors. It closed behind me as if a wind gust had slowly blown through the hallway. I'm going to go back into room 3. I was worried about those two. All kinds of terrible scenarios had popped into my head. I glanced around the room. They fortunately seemed to still be more or less okay. I approached them. Amy was still huddled over Lanny's body. Her face was twisted with worry. His condition seemed to have worsened, which became more and more apparent as I got closer. Spots in his arms and limbs seemed to be bruised. Some kind of black ulcers seems to bud grow out of some of them. Oh gosh. I wasn't sure he wouldn't last much longer without medicine. Amy looked up at me with sad eyes. I had some medicine on me. Or at least that's what the woman who gave it to me called it. I couldn't really read the label. Yes, it seemed like he would die if nothing was done. I decided to take the risk and administer the medicine to him. I have some medicine with me. He should be alright in no time if he takes this. I had sounded more confident than I actually was in the hopes of cheering Amy up. I made sure that he was conscious enough to drink it. Then I carefully lifted his head and put the bottle to his mouth. He slowly gulped it down, and I set his head back down. Will it be okay now? I think so, but it will take time for the medicine to take effect. All that was left to do was hope that what I gave him would help against his fever. I should get going again. I'll come back soon to check on you. Okay. Please don't take so long this time. Long? I hadn't been out for that long, but it was understandable that she didn't want to be left all alone. She was likely exaggerating. I think when you're worried about someone and you're constantly looking over them, time does feel much longer when you're left alone with that one person who is near enough at the stage of being unconscious. I walked by the canned food and considered taking some with me. Take none. I decided against taking any. I left the room and found myself back in the hallway. Suddenly I felt the floor beneath me vibrate with increased intensity. Oh, I didn't even check the second room. What was happening? An earthquake? The intensity of the rumbling increased as soon as I was thrown from side to side. I struggled to stabilize myself, but ultimately failed. My back hit the wall hard and I fell to the ground. I rolled into a ball trying to protect my head as I slid along the floor. The sound of metal breaking apart filled my ears. I was deafening. It was deafening as soon as it stopped, just as suddenly as it started. I stayed in a fetal position for a while longer, fearing that everything would start shaking again. But it seemed like it was finally over. Were the people inside the rooms alright? Had we perhaps run ashore? Would someone come and rescue us, now that we were on land? How did you even know that we were on land? A myriad of questions filled my mind. My eyes fell on the locked door to the hallway. Something about it was off. It was barely noticeable, but it seemed like the door was slightly skewed. I quickly approached it, turned the doorknob, and pulled on it. It was still stuck, but it did feel like I would be able to pry it open with more force. And so I tugged again and again, each time the door inching more and more open until the door flew open and I was thrown back. A strong gust of wind hit my face. I reflexively closed my eyes. I celebrated internally. Finally, I would be able to get out of here and look for help. Finally, this nightmare would end. But I was mistaken. What I expected to see beyond the door was the hall and restaurant from the day before. But my expectations were utterly betrayed. Oh, this ocean. A huge body of water was in the distance. As I looked down, I saw that we were hundreds of meters above ground. How were we moving on land? We're moving on water. What shocked me the most was that I could make out thin, long legs supporting this ship. Oh my gosh, there are legs, aren't there? Like the one on the left. No, that's a hand. It was as if I was inside something that was alive. My eyes wandered across the rest of the ship below me. It must have broken in half. Oh dear, is this a Titanic incident? The form of the tear was quite odd, though it looks like a huge bite mark. As if something even bigger than this cruise ship had ripped into it. But that couldn't be true. There was no animal big enough that could have bitten off such a huge chunk of the ship. Blue whale. As the creature I was on made a sharp turn, the ocean drifted out of view. My grip on the door frame tightened. I fear I would get thrown off. Then it stopped. My eyes widened in shock as I saw the scene before me. The view was surreal. Oh my god, look at that. What kind of horrors is that? That is not what we call normal. One single town was standing in the middle of a wasteland. Wandering through that wasteland were enormous, outlandish creatures amongst gigantic mushrooms. They looked like something straight out of a nightmare. I wiped my eyes, trying to dispel the illusion before me, but it wouldn't go away. My breathing became ragged and my chest contracted painfully. I had to accept this as my reality. In a trance, I stepped away from the doorframe. I wonder if this has anything to do with Fanny and his condition. A wave of rage overcame me as I lashed out and kicked the wall. A dull pain spread throughout my foot, but I barely noticed it. Tears started to well up in my eyes. Was there even any reason for me to go on? Of course there is. As long as you're alive, there is always hope. Why shouldn't I just go back to my room, lie down in bed, and stay there? I leaned against the wall and stared at the ceiling. My feet were shaking. Well, stop looking at this horrific, hellish nightmare landscape then, my man. But I was finally starting to calm down. I knew that getting angry wouldn't help. What I was seeing wasn't logical in any way. It went against everything I knew. It went against everything that I thought was logical. I was a scientist, so not being able to understand this place frustrated me. Above all else, it scared me. But giving up wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't the logical choice if I really wanted this nightmare to end. I'd escape sooner or later and get myself into a better position eventually. That's what I hoped at least. This ship may still be suspended high above ground, but there must be some way to get down. I would figure out what to do next once I was out of here. And we shut the door. I closed the door and slowly let my eyes drift over the 4 doors in front of me. Which room should I go into next? We haven't gone into room 2's yet. The door creaked open and light spilled into the damp room. A crowd of about 40 people occupied the space, just like the first room. Some were sitting on the floor and some were leaning against the dirty walls. Oh, this is Frederick. Suddenly, someone near the door darted up and shoved me aside. It was Frederick, who I'd met only briefly while I was chatting with Sabrina. He tried to force himself through the door, but was stopped mid-air. An invisible force was pushing him back. He is not happy. He's like, why does this guy get to go through, but I can't? Some more people approached the door and tried the same, but to no avail. Damn it! Frederick slammed his fist into the wall. I thought this was my chance. Frustrated, he went back to where he was originally sitting. Since I had been in a room like this before, I knew that I was able to travel back and forth. Hey, A few of the people looked up as I started speaking. I should be able to walk in and out. There are also survivors in the other rooms. Room 4, though, there's a surviving beast. I might be able to get you some things if we need anything specific. Frederick shot up and walked up to me until he was way too close for comfort. We need food. You'll get some for us, right? That sounded more like a threat than a request. Yeah, I can do that if I find some. I stepped back so I don't have to smell his sour sweat anymore, or his breath. Do you happen to have anything here that you don't need, just in case other people trapped on the ship need anything specific? He looked at me as if I'd just made a joke. What? No, even if we had anything, we wouldn't just be giving it away. I looked at him skeptically. Alright. I know what you want. I have a gun with me. If you bring me food, I'll trade it for the gun. A gun? I had never used a firearm before, and I wasn't sure how a gun would help me in this situation. Maybe getting through that escape route with the beast. Hesitantly, I agreed to escape Frederick's impatient gaze. Maybe it would come in handy after all. But you'll have to make sure to share the food with the others. Alright, whatever, just give us something, alright? I do have food on me. Maybe I could trade it in for a weapon in case I run into something dangerous. I will trade the food with Frederick. I decided to give the food to Frederick. It was probably a good idea to have a weapon with me in case I run into something out there. I have some food with me. I can give it to you and you can share it with the others. Frederick took a quick look around, as if to make sure that no one was watching. Then he took a gun from his pocket. Here, take it quickly. Don't tell anyone you gave me this, okay? I was definitely not okay with keeping the food a secret and was about to protest. But he had already taken the food and shoved me out of the door into the hallway. Surely others should look on to Frederick. He threw the gun at my feet and slammed the door shut. What a jerk, I thought. Yeah, well, at least I have the gun now. I had never really used one before, but I've seen my fair share of crime movies. That doesn't teach you how to use a gun, though, so I was certain that it would work out somehow. How hard could shooting a gun be, right? I checked the magazine to see how many bullets were in it. I thought it would be empty, otherwise he would have shot you right now for the food. Of course it was empty. That's why he had handed it over so easily. Otherwise he could have threatened me with it instead of trading it in. How could I have been fooled this easily? Frustrated, I put it away and turned towards the other doors. Room 3. I quickly made my way towards the middle of the room to find out whether the boy's condition had improved. The medicine couldn't actually have cured him this quickly, but his fever might have gone down a bit. And indeed, he didn't seem to have gotten much worse, but there were still weird black ulcers on his skin. They oddly... That's what I thought, actually. The black ulcers. They reminded one of the horrific landscape. They oddly reminded me of the mushrooms. Amy, on the other hand, didn't seem to be doing well at all. She was sitting next to him, staring into space. It was as if she hadn't even noticed me coming in. Hey, Amy. Are you alright? Her head barely motioned in my direction. Scott? It was almost as if she didn't really recognize me. I grew concerned. Yeah, it's me, Scott. Are you alright? She didn't reply. Maybe she was just tired. I couldn't blame her. This whole situation was pretty exhausting, especially for someone as young as her. Where have you been? Her voice was almost inaudible. I was searching for a way out of here. Don't worry. I'm sure I'll find one soon. She continued to stare at the floor with a blank expression. I just need some more time. I'll have you and your brother out of here soon. But then again, can they even escape from this room? She turned away. It didn't seem like she was up for a conversation. It was probably in her interest I left and continued searching for an exit. I left her be. We can't take any more food, it seems. Room 4. As I entered the room, the dog instantly started barking and tugging on its chain. The hole in the wall behind it seemed to be the only one out of this part of the ship. Once again, I went through my options to see if I could do to get past it. I had a gun and there were bullets next to the dog. I'm really sorry, I don't want to do this. Self-preservation. But in any other time I would never do this. Attack the dog using the gun. Yeah. I quickly snatched up some of the bullets that were laying near the dog and loaded the gun. It felt rather heavy in my hands as I pointed it at the creature. The dog had stopped barking and was glaring at me with mad eyes. It was as if it knew what the object in my hands was for. My breath was getting heavier. My heartbeat accelerated. My finger twitched and... Sudden silence engulfed me. It was soon replaced by a high-pitched sound. I had instinctively closed my eyes. I slowly opened them. A red puddle started tainting the area around the dog's corpse. I looked at the gun in my hands and a wave of disgust engulfed me. I forcefully threw it into a corner of the room. Immediately, I had started regretting what I had done to the animal. Cautiously, I stepped close and watched it. I wanted to confirm whether it was really dead. Its body lay on the ground motionless. It was truly dead, without a doubt. I stepped over it and walked towards the hole in the wall. What I had done weighed heavily on my conscience. The hole was rather small and I had trouble fitting through, but I succeeded eventually. After a while I noticed that something was off. The hole seemed to go on for longer than it should. I expected to have already come out in another part of the ship, but it just went on and on. Then a sudden wave of fatigue came over me. It was as if I had stepped into a veil. The air had gotten heavier and my breathing became more ragged. I clutched my chest as I tried to figure out what was going on. A throbbing pain pulsed through my arm. It was as if something had stabbed me. I tried to turn around, but I had already become too weak. My feet gave in and my vision darkened. I could feel a presence near me. Before I could find out who it was, my consciousness faded. So that was trapped. All of these scenarios will always end up finding ourselves a way out of a scenario that we walked into, but we always seem to somehow fade into some unconsciousness from that scenario. Right folks, thank you all so much for watching. We'll be going through the left door in the next time. I'm not sure what will happen after we go through all of these 3 doors. And I'm not sure if there are multiple outcomes depending on what you chose throughout the game, because I feel like I could have grabbed both halves of the food and then be able to help out both sets of people while at the same time leaving none for the children. Thank you so much for watching and take care of yourselves.